Hello, my name is Zhanat CARR. I'm with the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland. I would like, first of all, to thank the organizers for the invitation to give me this opportunity to present our work and talk about the global expert networks the WHO is utilizing in implementing its services to the member states. Without further delay, let me share my screen and to proceed with my presentation. The title of the presentation, as I already mentioned, is Global Expert Networks for Supporting Radiological and Nuclear Emergencies Preparedness and Response. First of all, I would like to emphasize that WHO is a global leader on health. And the structure of WHO is such that we have a headquarters in Geneva and 6 regional offices around the world. Our governance is implemented through the World Health Assembly, WHA, which brings together all the health authorities of our 196 member states. We also have 157 country offices implementing WHO mandate and collaborating with health authorities in the countries. Specifically, in relation to the radiation emergencies, I would like to mention that the most recent last World Health Assembly that took place in May 2021 mentioned the areas relevant to our work, of the work of our program, in the resolution related to the strengthening of WHO preparedness for response to health emergencies, where it states specifically that many countries are still lacking in the preparedness for radiological emergencies, and further work in this area is needed. And the second area, which is also quite relevant to the technical activities we are performing, is related to the support of mental health and psychosocial support during emergencies. And I will talk about it in a moment. So, as I mentioned, our World Health Assembly resolutions are one of the main legal tools for us and justification for our work in the area of radiation emergency response. In addition, WHO is a full party to both emergency conventions on early notification and on assistance, and a very strong legal tool is international health regulations. For those of you who are not familiar with this document, it is an international law which obliges countries, it provides for collective responsibility for global health securities. The document also specifies the roles and mechanisms for reporting to WHO in case of health emergencies of any origin without discriminating for the type of emergencies. So that includes also radiological and nuclear emergencies. And also IHR requires countries to implement certain minimum of capacities to be able to respond to health emergencies. You can read about this document, this law, and the activities that WHO is implementing for rolling out and implementing IHR, this link which you see on the screen. Of course, when working in the area of radiological nuclear emergencies, the WHO Radiation and Health Unit works with multiple international partners. And one of the strong partners is IAEA, of course, and other UN organizations. And together we form the Interagency Committee for Radiological and Nuclear Emergencies, IACRNE. And IAEA is the secretariat for this committee. We are also, WHO is a member as an observer organization to the IAEA's EPR Safety Standards Committee, which is the body approving and deciding on the international safety standards pertaining to the emergency preparedness and response area. We're also working with a nuclear energy agency of OECD based in Paris, which also has a working party on nuclear emergency matters. The other partners include various regional international groups, and we also work with professional associations. And one of our very strong partners, and something I would like to emphasize and speak more about, is our collaborating centers. This is the link to the WHO collaborating centers. You can read more about it, but briefly to mention There are more than 800 collaborating centers worldwide on different topics. And these are the key institutions with relevant expertise distributed throughout the world. It is a valuable resource and extended integral technical arm of WHO's capacity. This is a mechanism of cooperation to assist WHO in implementing its mandated work by supporting the achievement of its planned strategic objectives, also for enhancing the scientific validity of its global health work and developing and strengthening institutional capacity of countries and regions. The collaborating centers are designated by the Director General to carry out activities in support of WHO programs. As I mentioned, the link allows you to get more information about WHO collaborating centers. For radiation program, we have so far 18 collaborating centers which support our work in the EPR area. And you can see that a number of them are located in the Western Pacific region, abbreviated as WPRO, is Western Pacific Regional Office of WHO. As more specifically in Japan, we have 4 collaborating centers, and one of them, of course, is QST, National Institute of Radiological Sciences, hosting the event. When we implement IHR, there are 4 main components, and I would like to emphasize or zoom on the joint external evaluation component, which uses a specific metric system. You can see color-coded system of scoring of countries' preparedness across different indicators. For radiation emergencies, the indicators were developed in 2 groups, categories. One category is mechanisms established and functioning for detecting and responding to radiological nuclear emergencies, and the other one is related to enabling environment in place for management of radiological and nuclear emergencies. So for both green areas called demonstrated capacity and sustainable capacity, there are a number of indicators which we will be looking at when we perform this joint external evaluation mission. We look at the various criteria in the health sector, for example, whether there is a national IHR focal point established, whether there are relevant hospitals and designated health facilities available, what public health infrastructures are available at different levels. Then we look at food safety and drinking water safety services and how they function, what are the protocols available, what are the laboratory equipments are available. We also look at reference health facilities for clinical management of severe radiation injuries or internal contamination. We, of course, try to match that with countries' risk profile, because, for example, a small country in the Pacific Ocean probably does not need to invest into the expensive infrastructure and expensive laboratory equipment preparing for the nuclear emergency, which may never happen in their country. But what we try to encourage countries to put in place is some alternative arrangements for accessing the expertise abroad. This can be done through participation in regional and global networks of expertise. For example, WHO has a number of networks, and notably, of course, REMPAN, and IAEA also has a formal network providing assistance to countries. It's called RANET, Radiation Assistance Network. So talking about WHO's networks, I would like to emphasize focus on Radiation Emergency Medical Preparedness and Assistance Network, abbreviated as REMPAN, which is our technical expertise arm put in place since 1987. The other relevant network is the Global Biodosimetry Laboratories Network, which was put in place since 2008. And these are the links to the websites talking and presenting our networks and the activities. Of course, WHO has a number of different networks pertaining to response to health emergencies. For example, such a network of food safety authorities, which will deal with different emergencies related to food safety. But in case of a nuclear accident, we will also work with this network for collecting information on food safety in different countries. Other networks include, for example, Global Disease Outbreak Alert and Response Network, GORN, also Public Health Emergency Operations Centers Network, EOC-NET, and very interesting network of emergency medical teams, EMT network. These teams are established in many countries, and they are ready to be deployed in the on site for disasters, for various emergencies. And at the moment, they do not include a specific capacity for responding to nuclear emergencies, but this is something we would like to look into in future. So what are the functions of our expert networks of REMPAN and BioDoseNet? We separate them in three key areas. One, first of all, is of course technical support to WHO in response to actual emergencies. For example, when it happened in 2011, in response to Fukushima nuclear accident, we worked closely with our REMPAN networks network experts to provide expert advice to our member states, to mass media, to public, because the main principles of delivering a balanced and scientifically sound advice, it has to be based on the evidence, and it has to be a collectively put together advanced by the international panel of experts, not for a person who is working in the WHO radiation program, for example. But we are there to facilitate this development of the expert advice, which will be unbiased and will be balanced, and which we will respond to the needs of member states requesting assistance. And the second main function is supporting WHO work in strengthening national and regional preparedness and response capacities through development of technical guides, policies, practical tools, delivering training programs, participating in exercises, and sharing information and collaborating through research programs. And finally, the third function is supporting the implementation of international health regulations in their own countries, but also providing services to WHO during the expert missions to the countries, such as the JEE mission, which I just mentioned before. These are the areas of technical expertise which may be rendered by REMPAN member institutions. This relates to the radiation dosimetry, monitoring, environmental measurements, exposure assessment, dose reconstruction, and also through the support in the area of public health and medical response, such as risk assessment, food safety, drinking water, iodine thyroid blocking, advice on travel and trade safety, advice with mental health and psychosocial support, MHPSS, risk communication, also biodosimetry, of course, and delivering support in the area of assessment of internal contamination, bioassays, and internal dose monitoring and assessment, also histopathology, clinical management of radiation injuries, and also long-term follow-up. As you know, the radiation emergencies, they tend to have a long-term impact. So this response will may last for decades. Just a few words about history of WHO REMPAN. It was created after Chernobyl accident in response to WHO's ascending to the international conventions on assistance, on notification and assistance in case of nuclear accident. And being a full party to both conventions, as a next step, WHO set up the network of original 8 member institutions, which are listed on this slide. Today we have 18 collaborating centers, more than 40 liaison institutions, and more than 30 individual observers, bringing all together to some 100 members in member institutions and individual experts. It's a list of meetings held in the past, going through 1987 to 2017, and the very last meeting was held this year. Obviously, it was held online, like many conferences and symposiums and events held today due to pandemic situation. And to our delight, it was one of the largest in terms of participants meetings. It was very dense in terms of diversity of the agenda, and it was held over 3 days through the short sessions of 2.5 hours every day. BioDoseNet is, as I mentioned, a global network of biodosimetry laboratories, mostly performing cytogenetics assays, but also tests in molecular biomarkers and biochemistry and other type of assays, conducting research, intercomparison exercises. We have held 3 surveys of capacities of the network member laboratories, and the latest survey was finalized just this year, and the results of the survey will be published by the end of this year. These laboratories are expected to provide assistance in case of a large mass casualty event, and if necessary, blood samples could be shared, or the images of chromosomal aberrations scoring could be shared between laboratories. And to ensure the consistency of the results, of course, we have to have regular intercomparison exercises, ensuring the quality of the work and services provided by these laboratories. This is just a quick timeline throughout the history of the network, which was first set up, conceived in 2007, and the first meeting was held in 2008. Since then, we had 5 regular meetings and 3 surveys and a number of exercises. So it is a very fruitful and quite prolific network. Number of reports were published, also not shown on this slide. Also was a publication in 2018, summarizing the results of the past survey. Our experts of both networks contribute to the development of technical guidance, as I mentioned, published by WHO. For example, most recently documents published is the guideline on ITV thyroid blocking. Network members contribute to the translation of our publications to other languages, and also dissemination and distribution of this documentation. This is one of the latest directions of our work. In the last few years, we've been actively advocating and raising the issue of the need of bringing the mental health and psychosocial support into the picture and integrating it in the existing systems of preparedness to radiological nuclear emergencies. And as a result of this very successful collaboration with the Nuclear Energy Agency in Paris, we have produced the policy document called Framework from Mental Health and Psychosocial Support in Radiological Nuclear Emergencies, and it was published at the end of 2020. You can see through this link shown on this slide, the launch, the webinar was video recorded, and it's available for viewing on YouTube channel of REMPAN. During pandemic, what we have done also, the unit of radiation and health of WHO, we conducted a survey, a short pulse survey of the network members to see how they are involved in the response and also how they affected in their professional and also in personal life during the lockdown period and during the response of pandemic. And we were really pleased to see that many of our member institutions were very actively involved in response in their countries. The hospitals were reprofiled, for example, to accept COVID pandemic, COVID patients, or biodosimetry laboratories were also involved in conducting PCR analysis. So the network was quite engaged in the response worldwide. In addition, at the level of the headquarters and policy development, our unit worked with our experts, external collaborators, to develop number of documentation to support COVID response through development of a guidance for chest imaging for COVID-19 patients, and also a number of derivative products was delivered, such as training materials, also technical specifications for imaging equipment, e-learning courses, etc. We've been actually quite active in conducting webinars. Originally, we started back in 2018 by offering 2 topical webinars per year. And then since 2020, from the beginning of the pandemic, and last year, we held half a dozen of webinars on different topics. Some of them are available through the video recording. These are the interactive links you can click on and view the videos through our YouTube channel. And also, of course, in terms of capacity building, all members of REMPAN network and also BioDoseNet network offer training courses. Sometimes these are small training courses at the country level, sometimes they are regional and global international training courses. Here, there are just 2 examples of the last live training courses we supported, which were held in China in 2019 and also in Turkey in 2020. But since then, during 2020 and this year also, number of training activities were held, for example, by QST NIRS. There were several online training courses where I also had an honor to participate. Of what we are doing at the moment, I would like to share with you our work we do on revision of the 2007 reports on the development of national stockpiles. This list of experts from our member institutions of REMPAN who are contributing to the development of the new document of the update of the 2007 report. It will be called Policy Advice for Development of National Stockpiles for Radiological Nuclear Emergencies. And you can see that we have several experts from Japan also involved in this work, as well as the work on development of WHO guidelines on internal contamination monitoring and management, clinical management. You can see that we have experts also from QST NIRS institution, Osamu Kuriharo and Atsushi Komagai, and also Dr. Hideo Tatsuzaki, of course, will be involved in this work, important work, through the number of steps which we have to implement in order to develop a guideline. You can see here the sequence of steps. Usually it may take up to 2 or 3 years sometimes. We have to make sure that we have a strong evidence-based recommendations put in the WHO guidelines. Few other activities in radiological nuclear emergencies EPR area are listed on this slide. We would like to implement MHPSS framework through development of practical tools to support decision-making of emergency planners and responders. We're currently also producing the REMPAN 16 meeting report, and proceedings will be published in the journal called Environmental Advances early next year. We are trying to also maintain our REMPAN webinars and regularly publish e-newsletters showing all the activities done by the network members. This year, we will be participating next month in the International Nuclear Emergency Exercise to be held in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, called Convex 3 exercise, which will be held on the basis of the national exercise of the new nuclear power plant built in Abu Dhabi, Baraka nuclear power plant. And we also are waiting for next year to hold our next biodosimetry network meeting, which will be held in conjunction, as usually, with the International Biodose 2022 conference in Japan. We are discussing with the member of BioDoseNet network possibility of development of methodology for PCR-based biodosimetry. We are discussing how we can take advantage of PCR tests being done by many laboratories to diagnose COVID worldwide. So this is a technology which we may also use, modified version, of course, for biodosimetry of radiation exposure. So these are interesting activities which are planned. They're in the process at the moment. This is the website where you can download the past 23 issues of REMPAN newsletter describing our work, where all members of the network contributing regularly to develop this network. And in summary, what I would like to say that WHO promotes international cooperation in the EPR area through our global expert networks. Both REMPAN and BioDose networks are our important assets, providing technical support to our work in the EPR area and in strengthening preparedness of our member states. Network members participate in the implementation of IHR, which is the international law, and we are really honored and happy to have our network members supporting this work. Our experts contribute to the development of technical tools, guidance, protocols, and international norms and standards in radiation safety. Both networks facilitate exchange of information and collaboration between the members and share with the global professional community. In countries with low radiation risk profile and in those which have not yet achieved a sustainable level of IHR implementation, access to expertise abroad and through participation in the expert networks can provide an alternative to the investment in building capacity for preparedness and radiation emergencies. With this, I would like also to invite all of you who are not yet joined the REMPAN or BioDose network. Please feel free to contact myself and reach out, and I will be very happy to share information and to welcome you to our networks. With this, I would like to say thank you and goodbye.